He was a senior in high school, probably one of the most popular kids, and he took his life. He wrote a suicide letter and grabbed a shotgun and ended his life.
There are people watching this interview right now who are literally at that place. What do you want to say to those people? Hey people, welcome to Under the Rug. I am your host, Nalini Tranquim. My son called me yesterday to say that he had received a message from a friend saying that one of her friends had committed suicide. Suicide is an epidemic that is sweeping the globe at an alarming rate. In today's episode, we are going to put practical tools into your lap so that, one, you become more aware, more cognizant of the condition of your well-being, speaking specifically to your mind, your will, and your emotions, so that you are able to identify when you're spiraling into the pit of depression, despair, despondency, disappointment, but then what to do before reaching the point of self-harming or planning out a suicide, and for some, the actual act of suicide. I have wanted to uncover this topic for some time now, but I've also been very aware of the weightiness of this matter, and so it's needed to be addressed with the right person. Over the last couple of years, I've actually been praying specifically, God, who is the person to unpack this with me? Well, we have that person on the show today. He is known as America's motivational entertainer. He is a motivational speaker, comedy magician, TV show host. His tour across the USA has been seen by over 5 million people. He has graced the covers of Forbes magazine and LA Weekly. He's featured on radio and television, including TED Talk, NBC, ABC News, and Fox. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to introduce to you Tom Coverley. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Seriously, I'm super excited. It is weird hearing someone say all those accolades. Thank you, thank you. I'm excited for this really, really important subject, right, that you just introduced to everybody, talking about suicide and mental health. So excited, but it's also going to be a very deep, but hopefully very real conversation with everybody today.
100%, Tom. It's such an honor having you, honestly. You were nominated within the top 10 of most motivational persons by the Cheer Choice Awards. Massive congratulations to you for that. I have met people over the years who, like you, have achieved great acclaim, but they carry with themselves an air of arrogance. Now, I haven't seen this with you since I've met you. What keeps you humble?
What keeps me humble? Listen, I didn't come from much in my life. Our family just grew up in a very poor house. And I know a lot of people even watching this might come from similar backgrounds, right? Where you didn't have much. You had the hand-me-downs. You had everything that you had to work so hard for. And watching my mom and dad had worked so hard for the very little that we did have. And I told God years ago, I said, God, if you expand my territory and take this platform and explode it in the ways that He has, I said, I promise you, I will honor you, I will stay humble. And the moment that there is any sense of pride in me, I want you to strip it all away completely.
Wow.
And then that would be on me, right? I can't
Right.
blame God. I can't blame anybody else that would blame, because pride comes before the fall. In the big picture, I'm nobody. I'm somebody because God says I'm somebody, but I'm nobody, right? I'm no different than any single person that's watching this interview today.
I really love that. With all your hard work over the years and the imprint that you are leaving within hearts of kids and parents around the world, it has led you to a very exciting opportunity of launching a television show.
Yes.
Massive congratulations. Can you give
Thank-
us a little bit of intel, please?
Yeah. So this TV show is called Influenced. It's spelled NFLNCD. And basically, if you ever watch Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show and you ever watched on MTV a show called Ridiculousness, and you kind of combine those two together and those two shows had a baby, like that's kind of the style of our show. And I get to be the host of it. And I'm interviewing some of the biggest social media influencers in the world, which we all know that in many cases, a lot of these influencers have bigger followings than a lot of A-list celebrities in this world.
Yeah.
And so I get a chance to interview them, but it's not even really about them. It's really about who influenced them. And then we focus on who they're influencing, right? Because we all have been given different talents, gifts, abilities, or love for something. And so I get a chance to dig deep with them on the show. And I'm excited because it'll be on Connect TV, so connect.tv. And so I'm excited about that for the world to be able to see this. So if someone has Roku, Google Play, Apple Television, they can download Connect and they'll be able to watch all the.
Oh my gosh, massive congrats, Tom. Wow, wow, wow. Super excited about that. We'll make sure we include all the links.
It was my biggest dream since I was a little kid, right?
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
it was something that very few people knew, right? Some people that were closest to me knew that that was something I loved. Kind of gave up on that dream for a lot of years, right? Because I'm
Phew.
like, I don't want to tell anybody about that dream because if it doesn't happen, I don't want to feel like a failure or a mess up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Fast forward, it's humbling to be able to do
Oh,
this show.
come on. I think if anything, there's a message right there, right? That it's never
Mm,
too late for the fulfillment of your dream.
mm-mm. Keep going.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. When we spoke recently, we talked through all the incredible doors that have opened for you and the vast influence that you have and are continuing to gain around the world. But at one point in our chat, I asked you, yes, but what's the why behind what you do? And so I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get into the nuts and bolts of the
Yeah,
driving force behind Tom Coverley. So,
yeah.
can you take us back to your first year as a young youth pastor?
Mm, yes. I'm young. I'm right out of college. And of course, at that age, right, you think you have all the answers and how to handle everything. But I look back and I think I wish I could give out a lot of apologies, right, to a lot of parents, advice that I was giving kids, and I'm thinking I didn't know much about life. But one thing I can say is I gave it my all, right? It wasn't coming from any other point besides what I was trying to follow with what God wanted. And so I'll never forget getting a call that one of our youth group kids, he was a senior in high school, probably one of the most popular kids there at that school. And he took his life. He wrote a suicide letter and um, grabbed a shotgun and ended his life. And um,
Yeah.
they didn't teach us how to handle this in Bible college, right? And so I show up, the senior pastor is there, and we're trying to just
Mm,
hug and just love on this family, right? There's no words you can really say in those moments except just letting people know that you're there. They don't have to carry that burden on their own.
amen.
Um, and so after it was a small town, and so after they removed the body, did their investigation, it wasn't like a big city where maybe there's a special unit that comes out and
Yeah.
takes care of the mess, right? So the senior pastor and I, we were the ones wiping down walls and pulling up the carpet and mattress and taking that outside and destroying that.
Yeah.
So the parents didn't have to walk in that room and deal with any of that. And let me just tell you, there are images in my mind that I will never forget the rest of my life from those moments. And
Yeah.
that drives me. I don't share his story all the time. Most people have never heard that story. Um, but it's one of those things that you talk about what drives Tom Coverley. They want to go reach kids where they're at. It's that story.
Jeez.
And to be there to speak at that funeral, to have hundreds of kids sitting in the crowd just looking for some kind of answer.
Yeah.
uh, Again, I wasn't prepared, like, I didn't have all the answers, but what I could do is just love on people for where they were at.
Yeah. Jeez. Do you ever get over that?
I kind of don't want to ever get over it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I know God uses our stories and experiences to help other people, right?
Sure.
And so it's something I wish in some ways I can erase from my mind. No one wants those memories in their mind. People that are watching this that have lost a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad, a relative, a friend to suicide, if they've ever witnessed it, they
Mhm.
want to forget that,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
You wish you can erase those memories. But for me personally,
Yeah.
I love the fact that deep down inside, that when people see me speak with passion about this subject,
Yeah.
that's where it's coming
That's
from.
where it's coming
Wish it
from.
didn't have to happen, but that's where that passion comes from.
Okay. I know this isn't in the order of our conversation today, but I just feel so strongly to point out that there are people watching this interview right now who are literally at that place.
Mm.
What do you want to say to those people?
When I do a magic show, it's not real, right? I don't have any magical powers, but everything that I do is sleight of hand, misdirection, right? And practice that goes into making that illusion look real,
Yeah.
making an illusion look real. There are some of you right now believing illusions and you're believing lies. And I want to just look you in the eye and remind you of some truth and reality. Truth and reality is you're loved, because some of you are believing that illusion that nobody cares about you and nobody cares to even listen to you or hear your heart. And truth and reality is there are people that hear your heart. Um, some of you are looking at your situation. The best way I could describe it is through like a little peek hole in a door, right? And you say you're in the hotel room and you look through that little peek hole, and the only thing you see straight ahead is maybe the room across from yours. You can't see down the hallway either direction. All you see is right in front of you. And some of you right now, the only thing you're seeing is that problem that's right in front of you, your situation that seems out of control. And I want to encourage you, truth and reality is that when you open that door and you look down the hallway, there's some people there waiting for you. You look down that hallway, there's some people there waiting for you. There are always people that care about you. I've met people that are like, Tom, you don't know my story. Nobody is there. My mom's not there for me. My dad's not there. My brothers aren't there. My sisters. But there's always close friends. I've done a lot of schools and been in some schools that kids are lined up always to talk to me afterwards when there's been a suicide in a school.
Mm.
And those kids lined up always say, if that person that ended their life only knew how much I cared about them, only knew how much I loved them. I've never been to a school where there's been a suicide and there's not a lineup of people that cared about that human being. And
Yeah.
so I want to look you in the eye and say that you're not alone. That's truth and reality. Some of you are believing the illusion and lie that, Tom, I have no purpose in this life. No one, Tom, you don't understand what I've done, how many times I've messed up. I've made some decisions that have affected my family and my friends and some people close to me. And I want to tell you, truth and reality is you have a purpose. You have a purpose in this life. I know we all believe different things about life. There are some of you that believe in God, as I do, and there are some of you who don't believe in God. But I want to tell you, there is a purpose for you. I strongly believe that God has a purpose through your very situation. And I look at the Bible's full of people who, the people that God used the most and had a purpose for the most in their life, were the people who were very raw and real about their biggest mess ups in this life.
Yeah.
And so I want to remind you that you do have a purpose. And we can dig into some more things throughout the interview, but the biggest thing is, no, you are not alone. That is a lie. And
Yeah.
yet you do have a purpose and that you can make it through this. It'll be hard, it'll be tough, but you will make it through this time in your life.
Yeah. So good, Tom. So good. I remember when you shared that story with me before about this young lad in your youth group, right? Taking his
Yeah.
life, and just that horrific experience that you and your fellow pastor had to go through in cleaning up. I can't even imagine. But I know that the way that that impacted you was there was almost like a disconnect after that experience where you struggled to relate to somebody, who wanted to commit suicide. And I can understand that, like, because when you commit suicide, I mean, you're not there for the cleanup, or for the aftermath, right? But something
Mm.
changed for you personally. Did you want to just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, at that point in my life, even when I was in college and I was volunteering, helping in youth groups and things, and I would hear of friends or kids that I was ministering to, I could hear their heartache and their pain and them wanting to give up on this life. And I did at that point. I could never relate to someone who thought life was so bad
Mm,
that you would choose to end your life. I couldn't relate to that until
mm,
about 15 years ago. And
yeah,
I attempted to end my life twice. And by the grace of God, I'm here. Some serious, serious attempts. One time I will never forget, just parked. It was late at night, and I'm watching for the train to come by. And I it wasn't like I had a specific schedule, but I sat on the side of the road, just bawling my eyes out. And I just wanted it to be done. I believed every lie, every illusion at that point in my life. And I saw the train coming. The rails started to come down to block the traffic, kind of thing.
mm,
And I just, from where I was at, way down, I just started gunning it. And I'm like, I'm just going to run it really hard towards this train
yeah,
as a way of sometimes just taking control. Right. And so here I am barreling towards it. And as I'm coming towards that, the rail starting to come up. And as the rail's starting to come up, my car clips it. Well, the train was just passed by as I'm speeding at probably 70 miles an hour towards this train. And so it happened to be a short train. And so by the time I came across, that was just passing, rail come up. I clipped through the rail, break that into pieces, and that train went by and didn't hit it. And
sure. Gee,
I sat on that side of the road and I just bawled. I
yeah,
bawled my eyes out. Um,
yeah,
but I was still just wanting to be gone. I didn't want to face this life anymore. And so the next thing after that was I took my car one day and I was just driving as fast as I could, and I was going to hit the biggest object that I could. And it
yeah,
was like a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and I'm speeding. And all of a sudden, God flashed uh, my two little kids.
yeah, yeah,
He just flashed my Ashley, my Tyler into my mind, and I hit that brake as hard as I could,
yeah,
and my car started to spin right towards this big tree, and it just stopped just inches. Didn't even touch the tree, just inches from that tree. And right at that moment, um, this friend called me.
yeah,
Had no idea what was going on, and I was trying to compose myself. And all he kept saying was, "Tom, God's got a purpose for you. He's got a purpose for you." And he just reminded me of that truth, right? So now, in the last bunch of years since then, I've not had those thoughts. Have I had times where I'm like, God, yeah, I'm laying in bed and I'm like, God, if you don't wake me up through the night, I'm good, right? Like, I'm good. I'm good with this, right? But I haven't been in a spot to go and want to go choose that again. But going back to all that, it's allowed me not only from the first year of youth pastoring and dealing with that situation, but this situation now allowed me, and I don't share this is why I get emotional about it, but it's just one of those other moments in my life that, um, it's my drive and it's my purpose that I know God wants to use to help other people.
Come
And
on.
sometimes maybe it's not always sharing our own story, um, but we allow that to be the thing that is that passion inside of us.
Yeah, 100%. Isn't it just crazy how when you were in that place of it's over, I'm done, my life is done, that you had no foresight of the
Mhm.
millions of people that you
Mhm.
have impacted around the world.
None, none. I would have never thought in a million years I would be standing on stages
Yeah.
sharing a message that offers hope to people. I mean, I go back to Bible college and, you know, I just I had a professor even in college that was telling me, "You're not gonna be a motivational speaker, you know? You're not gonna be a preacher," you know? And he wasn't trying to say it cruel, he was trying to say it because I stunk at it. I really did. Um, to be honest, I was awful. But I also knew, like, I got nervous in front of people, I would stutter, I have a stutter, I would shake really bad, I was that guy holding that piece of paper and the paper's shaking, really bad, and so when he told me that, you know what it made me do? It made me wanna work harder than anybody else.
Woo! Come
I didn't have
on.
the internet to hop on to go Google how do you become a good speaker because I'm old and I didn't have that. So I had to read books, and I don't like reading books. So all the readers out there, God bless you. You can read. But listen, it took this guy who did not like books. I'm in the library. I'm studying everything I could on being a really good speaker. I took
Wow.
every opportunity I could to take extra classes while I was there in college. And I was paying for college myself because, again, I came from a house that didn't have a lot of money. And so I was paying for college myself. I was working full time, taking full classes. And I'm like, I'm going to take extra classes. I'm spending that money. Then on the weekends, I was taking every opportunity I could to speak at different events for free, right? Just going, I'm gonna get in front of people. I remember even sharing my stories and my speeches that I would prepare. I was speaking them in front of like nursing homes. I would go to nursing homes and I'm like, hey, can I talk to people? And they would put them wheelmen with their wheelchairs and they're all sitting around and I'm talking and I was still boring at that point, so half of them were asleep and they're snoring away. Yeah, I never would have thought in a million years. 5 million people. I don't say that to do this. I say that to pat God on that back because He's opened up those doors. I want people to realize I don't share my faith in schools. I respect that line with the public schools, and
Yeah.
and so I don't share my faith, but it's a big part of who I am.
Of who you are.
Yeah, it's a big part of who I am. And so I youth pastored for about a dozen years. And
Wow.
I always had a heart for the down and outer. I always had a heart for the people that most people look and go, yeah, they'll probably never change, or someone who got in trouble with the law and they're locked up. They were the kids that I wanted to reach. And so I got to a point where I went to some pastor friends of mine and I said, "Can you pray about what it is I should do? I feel like I want to reach people outside the four walls of the church." And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge supporter of the local church. For me personally, I felt like God called me outside those four walls. And so he came back to me and he said, "Tom, you're a great speaker," which is kind of weird to say. At that point, I worked hard on that, right? And so he said, "Tom, you're a great speaker." And then his exact words, he says, "You got this stupid talent doing magic tricks." And he
Come
says,
on.
"Have you ever thought about tying the two together and reach people with that?" And I
Wow.
looked at him in the eye and I said, "Can I be real with you? I think that is the corniest idea I've ever heard. I think that's a silly idea." I said, "No, that doesn't sound right at all." And he's like, "Tom, you asked me to pray. I think you should, put together a website, start with your connections of pastors and people around the country and watch what happens."
Wow.
Again, this is the pat God on the back. In that first year, I was in 38 states speaking and performing. I still pinch myself over that. We just celebrated 18 years of doing this full time.
Wow.
So it's just been
Wow.
unbelievable. Schools weren't even a part of the original mission. I was just using my comedy magic show as a way of doing a show at churches, and then at the end of the show, and I still do this, at the end of the show, I say, look, everything you just saw is an illusion, but let me share something that's real. Let me share how Jesus has changed my life. And I just share my story. I don't have to get preachy. People watching this, again, they may believe something totally different than you and I. I don't have to get preachy. I just share my story. And my hope is that people will be more blown away by who Jesus is than a stupid magic trick that they just saw.
Come on. Wow.
It's that's just a simple tool and something that's fun to be able to do to capture attention, ultimately
Totally.
for me to share a message of hope.
Yes, yes.
So I was doing that for a lot of years. I was doing a lot of the big Christian music festivals and giant youth conferences and arenas and things like that. And so this guy came to me and he said, Tom, have you ever thought about speaking in schools? And I'm like, I don't want to speak in schools. I want to share Jesus. I can't speak in the schools. He said, Tom, no, you can't share Jesus in the school, but I want you to be you. And I want you to just share your passion. He said, Tom, put together a bullying prevention assembly. Give me 2 weeks. And he said, we're going to go into the schools. You're going to do this assembly. And then we're going to partner with some churches at night. And we're going to invite the students, the families, the parents, the community back at night. And it'll give you a chance then to do a full show. Again, at the end of the show, I didn't have to get preachy. I just shared my story of how God's turned my life around. And so we were just seeing, just through those years, just tens of thousands of people
Wow.
surrender their life to God.
Mm.
Um, and I never would have thought that school assemblies would be one of the biggest things I'm passionate about today. And I love it. And
Jeez.
again, I can't share my faith in the schools, but I
Wow.
go there and I entertain them with a couple magic tricks. And then it gives me a chance to destroy the illusions and lies.
Mm.
And we're watching it just change kids in
Jeez.
ways that I never would have thought. That's where I said, like, I literally pinch myself. You want me to share one of the stories that happened recently?
Yes,
Uh,
please.
I'll share two quick ones. I walked into a school, and this girl said that, Tom, this is my first day back at school. And I said, why? What happened? And she said, well, I tried to end my life. I was bullied really bad. And I just thought nobody loved me. I'm not beautiful enough. No one cares about me. So I tried to end my life. And she said I ended up in a coma. And I was in a coma for over 30 days.
Mm.
And of course, she went through rehab and some counseling, and she's still going through counseling, at that time. And she said, Tom, today was my very first day back to school. And here, speaking in the school, is someone talking about bullying and suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And, when I'm not on stage, to be able to look a child in the eye and say, look, I know that we might believe different things. I can't say this from the stage, but I want to tell you that God says you are beautifully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
God made zero mistakes when he made you, and you are perfect. That's truth. And I get a chance to say, look, I'm going to say the same thing I would tell my two little girls. My two little girls, one now being 25 years old, one being 11 years old. I'm going to tell you the same thing. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. And so that story just sits with me because people can go, oh, that's just a coincidence. That's just timing. But I know God's timing because that girl then was like, I'm going to change things around in this school. I'm going to take
Come
what you
on.
talked about today and
Wow.
I'm going to apply that and use my story as a way of talking to people. Isn't that powerful? Like,
Yeah, so powerful, Tom.
not
Oh my
because of
gosh.
anything Tom Coverley said, but
Yeah.
God timing and put me in the right place.
Yep.
Right.
Come on.
Another one was a girl came up to me afterwards crying and she said, Tom, last night I wrote a suicide note. And
Mm.
the only reason I came to school today is because I wanted to secretly say goodbye to my friends. My friends have no idea that I'm going to end my life after school today. My family has no idea. And she said, Tom, I want you to know I believed every single one of the illusions and lies you were talking about. Some of them that I talked about earlier in this podcast.
Mm. Mm.
And she said, Tom, I believe those lies. But now, after listening to you, I'm choosing to believe truth and reality,
Yeah.
that I am perfect, that I do have a purpose in this life. She said, I'm going to choose to live. And that night was where we were doing one of those events at night. We partnered with a church, but it happened to be back at the public school. And the church rented it. So at night, we had the freedom to kind of just make it a faith based event at night. And so she came. I said, will you come to this event tonight with your family? Well, she came with her mom.
Wow.
Her mom had that suicide note in her hand,
Oh,
crumbled up in her hand, and put her arms around me. And let me just tell you, that was a hug that to this day gives me goosebumps that I will never forget the rest of my life. As that mom just sobbed on my shoulder.
yeah.
And I couldn't understand much of what she was saying because she was sobbing so bad. But she said over and over again, just thank you, thank you. Because if you weren't in the school today, I know my daughter wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be at this event.
Yeah.
It would be a whole different story.
Yeah.
Man. So
Yeah.
there are two stories that I just wanted to share and pass along
Whew.
of the
Nick.
impact that is happening during these school assemblies.
So powerful. I'm so thankful for your life. We are so thankful for your life. I know everyone listening to this podcast thanks God for your life. Um, you talk about these illusions, and I know you've mentioned a few earlier, and feel free to mention more if any more come to mind. But the fact of the matter is if we believe these illusions, and if
Mm.
we leave our thoughts and emotions unchecked, we will continue to spiral down the rabbit hole until ultimately it leads to suicidal thoughts, potentially self harming, and ultimately, in some cases, the actual act of suicide. So, Tom, what are the early signs that we as individuals, and I'm talking to teenagers, adults, everyone and everyone listening to this, what are those early signs that we as individuals need to be aware of so that we can catch ourselves before spiraling?
Yeah. Yeah. A great question. I honestly believe that we all know when we're at that point.
Yes.
We do. We know when we're sinking, right? We know when it would be like being out in the middle of the water and maybe even you're a good swimmer, but you're exhausted and you just feel yourself can't keep yourself above that water line anymore. And we feel ourselves starting to sink. We feel ourselves have no energy to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everybody that is watching this and listening to this to find someone now that you can count on. And I get it. Some of you, you might have to rack your brain. Maybe some of you watching this, the people who are supposed to love you the most have hurt you the most. And you have a hard time going to those people. And I guarantee it, there are people in your life that would be that listener, that would be someone that you can go to and cry out to. And find those people now in your life. Find one person that 24/7, 3 a.m. in the morning, that you could pick up, you can call and talk to. Um,
Yeah.
because it's serious when we're in those moments. If you're anything like me, I don't want to talk to anybody in those moments.
Yeah.
But when you have these conversations, when you're having somewhat of a good day and you're kind of swimming above water a little bit, that's the time now to go and find these people that you can put in your list. They go, this is going to be my go-to person. There are numbers out there, every country's got a different number of that you can call and you can talk to people. And I get it. Sometimes it's really hard to just talk to a stranger. But there are organizations out there, you find them now that you can cry out to, that you could just that, and they're so good at just listening.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of times that's all we want, right? We will just want to be heard through our deepest heartaches, our deepest pain. And I want to kind of twist that because there are people watching this that say, well, what do I say to someone? You know,
Yes.
what do I say to those that are hurting? And let me just tell you, you don't have to have all the answers. I mean, you
Yes.
don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have all the knowledge. You don't have to know anything about suicide prevention. You don't have to know anything about mental health. Just be a kind-hearted, loving human being that knows how to listen. The
Come on.
person that is spilling their heart out to us, they're going to give us all the things that we need to know to be able to turn it around. For example, I mentioned earlier the illusion of, that no one would miss me.
Yeah.
And people usually that's a big reason why people wanna give up. They start to believe that. I believe that. I wasn't thinking about my kids when I chose to go through a railroad track. I wasn't thinking about my kids when I was racing my car at 35-mile-an-hour zone, 70 miles an hour to try to hit the biggest object. It wasn't until the very last second, right, that that was on my mind. And so, if you listen to people, they will cry out illusions and lies.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just kinda just turn that to speak some truth and reality that combat
Yes.
those lies, and so just reminding them. It's not earth-shattering advice. When I'm at these schools, I'm not sharing earth-shattering advice that nobody's ever heard before, but we all need the reminder that you are loved, you are
Yes.
beautiful, you are
Yes.
perfect,
Yes.
that you have a purpose in this life, that people would miss you if you're gone. I mean, we can go down a whole list of things, but everybody needs those reminders. You could
Yes.
take the most strong people that you know in your life, and they need those reminders once in a while.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you, start the game plan now while your head's above the water.
Come on.
If you have those thoughts that, man, I'm starting to sink, start
Yeah.
to put these things in place. There's always those people to listen to you.
Yeah. I almost feel like we need to just do a list of our close friends now and again, like once a month even, and just reach out to them and say, I love you and you matter to me. And, my life is better because you're in it,
Yeah, it's
yeah, because you just don't know. I'm sure there's also people listening who sometimes I get this where someone is in my heart and in my mind, like quite heavily. And I just
mhm,
know I have to reach out. And I know sometimes you kind of hold back because you think, oh, that's a bit silly. I don't really know what I'm going to say. But I find myself just, hey, babe, just checking in. You've just been on my
mhm,
mind. Hope everything's okay. Tom, can I just say the amount of times I get messages back from my friends and my loved ones and people who I've reached out to saying, oh my gosh, you have no idea the timing of your message,
mhm. Same here. Yeah,
right? So,
powerful.
yeah. So I guess this kind of leads me on to what is your advice to the person who is concerned about the well-being of someone in their family or friend group? Maybe they've picked up signs, maybe they haven't, maybe they've just had that person on their mind for a while. What do you want to say to them?
Yeah, again, you don't have to have all the answers.
Yes.
There are plenty of resources out there that you can point people to. Just like I ask those who have tendencies to maybe think suicidal thoughts, I'm asking you to have a plan for your friends. If you haven't already, you will
Yes.
at some point in your life.
Yes.
And I guarantee you, there are people in your life right now that are dealing with this, and you have no idea yet.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
all around us. It's in the
Yeah.
church, it's outside the church. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, those thoughts hit everybody in this world as far as you could have the greatest job in the world. You could be watching your favorite actor or actress on TV and think, "Oh man, it looks like they have everything together." I guarantee you, they have some hard moments in life.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
you think suicidal thoughts or not, we all have those thoughts sometimes where we just need encouragement. And so I want to encourage you to come up with a game plan. Do your homework now to go, man, is there a number? Right? I know here in the States, right? If people call 988, that's a number they could dial, right? All every different country has that kind of number or organization that you could reach out to, and so have those in your phone so that you can pull them up quickly. But just know you don't need all the answers. You
Yes.
don't need all the answer. I think that's the biggest fear
Yeah.
people have of reaching out to their friends. What you said you do of just checking up on people. I would encourage you. You can listen to this podcast, walk away, and go, "Man, that was great. That was encouraging." Maybe some of you take it and go, "I know someone who's suicidal, so man, I could take and apply some of this." Maybe some of you are going, "I haven't dealt with anybody yet," and I just want to tell you that there will be people in your life
Yeah,
that if you just listen, they're all around you. I don't want this to be a podcast you just listen to and not apply it. I'm going
that's
to
right.
ask every person that's watching this
Agree.
to text at least one
Come on.
person. Text someone in your phone. Some of you have someone in mind, just as we've been talking. From the
Yes.
moment you started to mention that you text friends, I guarantee there's been people starting to think of someone. That face is coming to your mind. Shoot them a text. Remind them that they're loved. Remind them how much you care about them. And I'm telling you, I needed that even a few months ago. I was bedridden for a few months. I have a lot of health issues going on, and I was struggling.
Yeah.
Again, not to the point of where I would have chose myself to give up on life, but I was at that point where when I'm laying my head on the pillow and I was in so much physical pain that I'm like, God,
Mm.
if I don't make it through the night, I'm good with this. You know that, God. Like, come on. I don't want to deal with this pain. I don't want to face this pain.
Yeah.
And I could have used some people. Can I be real? I reached out to one of my best friends and I said, after it was all done, and I was checking up on him. And like everybody, right? We all get busy. And I text him and I said, bro, can we talk? Can we talk? And I said, man, I know you're busy. I get busy. We're really good at not calling each other, right? I don't know if it's a guy thing, but I hate talking on the telephone. And so my guy friends, like we could talk once a year and we're good, right? But I just said, bro, can I be real with you? I needed you the last few months,
Yeah.
and I was hurting, man, and and it was a chance for me to say, man, I'm so sorry for the times I get so busy and don't send you a quick text to remind you
Yeah.
because there were a couple people that reached out to me and sent me a text and showed that kind of love, right? They didn't have the answers. They didn't even know the whole story situation. They just reached out saying, "Man, I love you, Tom. Love you, bro. I'm praying with you through this, man. Um,
Mm.
man, you have such a purpose in this life." They're sending out all those truth statements, right?
Yeah.
There's people in your life that need you. So one person, that's
One
all I'm asking,
person.
one person.
Love that so much. I've just got one more question for you. For the person who has lost a loved one to suicide and is carrying that guilt of how could I have not have known that something was wrong, what do you want to say to that person?
When I'm in these schools and these kids are lined up,
Mm.
that's the number one thing I hear all the time. If I only would have known. And they carry guilt, or a mom or a dad that I've hugged. I met this mom and dad who lost their son and their grandson within 2 weeks of each other, ending their life both in the same way with a gun to the head. I put my arms around that mom and dad at that event backstage, and them saying, "If only I would have known."
Yeah.
Man, they were really hurting. And I just want to tell you that you can't, first of all, put that blame on yourself. Suicide is a selfish act, right? If I would have been successful in that attempt, that is selfish to my two little kids that I would have left behind. It is selfish to my mom, my dad, my brothers, to my family, to my friends. We're not thinking it's selfish in that moment.
No, that's right.
We're just thinking about our pain, right? We just want our pain to end, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, right? We just want it to end. So I just want to say,
Yeah.
let go of that guilt because they chose that. They chose that. Let go. I did an illustration years ago where I had a backpack on and it was filled with rocks and stones and big bricks to represent the weight and the burdens that we're carrying. And there are some of you that need to just not just pull one brick out, two bricks out. Some of you need to take that backpack off and just lay it down and lay it at God's feet. I get it. Some of you are like, I don't believe in God, Tom. Then I want you to think about laying it down in a way that go, I don't want it anymore. Because those that do believe in God, God says, take your burdens and lay them at my feet, and I'll take care of that.
Yes.
God says
Yes.
that He is the God of all comfort. I can try to comfort you. You could try to comfort everybody here, but God's the God of all comfort. No one else comforts better than God ever can. So I ask that God would take His arms and you would physically feel the love of God right now in this moment, because some of you can't even hold back the tears right now when you think about that loved one, that friend that gave up on this life, that chose to give up on this gift called life. And I want God to give you that biggest hug that you need right now. But let that go, and then use that as an opportunity when you're healed up, and that time will come, and use that to be able to minister and help other people, pour love on other people who are hurting, because they're in your workplace, they're in your school, you're sitting in classrooms, and they're sitting right around you. And I tell people all the time, if we would just train our eyes to take 3 seconds to look around every single room that we walk into, I guarantee you will see some people that are lonely, that are hurting, that need encouragement. Because a kind word, a hug when it's appropriate, a compliment goes a long way in changing someone's outlook on life. We never know what someone's going through. If we had the time to seriously interview every single person, could you imagine this? Like, if we had the time to go, you have 1 minute, here, pop on, and we put their little face up on the window here on this podcast, right? And we say, share your story, share your biggest heartache, your biggest pain, what's really going on in your life. And if every single one of us did that, it would change the way that we treat one another,
You're
because we realize that we're not alone in this life. This journey of life is hard sometimes. It's not easy. We've all heard it described as this roller coaster, right? And I'll tell you what, there are a whole lot of seems like downhills sometimes before we start to go this direction. And I just want to say, every single time, no matter where you're at on that, there's someone that wants to walk with you. And He is no illusion. He has no curse word. His name is Jesus Christ, and He loves you.
Whew. Yeah. Tom, could you just pray for
Yeah,
the individual who's listening to this right now, regardless of where they're at? Can you just, yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Father God, I first of all just want to say, God, the person in this room that's listening in their car, they're listening while they're working out, they're listening to this wherever they are at, God, and maybe they don't even believe in you. God, we're not here to try to convince them to believe in you, but God, I just pray that they would feel you in a way that would blow their mind. God, that they would feel your presence in a way, God, that they would realize there is something so much more to this life. God, I just pray for those who are hurting, that maybe last night as they laid their head on the pillow, God, they cried themselves to sleep, God. It seems like no one in their life cares to hear what is going on in their life, God. They feel like giving up. They want to throw in the towel. Maybe they're praying like I did, God, and saying, God, I don't even want to wake up tonight, God. Just take me out of this life. I can't hurt physically anymore. I don't want to hurt mentally anymore. God, I can't make it through this life. God, I just pray that right now they would just be still and know that you are God and that you care about them. You love them. Lord, you love them even at their worst. Lord, you died. God, you sent your son Jesus to die on that cross so they don't have to do anything. but love you, God. They don't have to somehow try to work their way to heaven, God. God, you love them, comfort them, show them that love in ways that they've never seen before, God. I prayed that they would reach out to someone, give them that courage, give them that every bit in their gut to want to reach out to someone today, whether it's an organization that's good at listening or whether it's a friend. God, I pray that they won't internalize it. I pray that they won't believe the lie, the illusion as they're listening that I got this. I'll make it through it. I don't need anybody to help me with this. God, I pray that they would reach out, God, because we are weak when we are at those moments, Lord, and we need someone. We need someone, God. So may you put those right people in their life and in their path. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know that your rawness and vulnerability will speak volumes to people around the world. You've also put practical tools into our hands, and we just want to thank you and honor you for that. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to leave our precious listeners with today?
I just tell you this, my favorite comedy hero of all time is no longer with us, and that's Robin Williams. And Robin Williams did a lot of incredible movies, and he was so good at smiling and laughing. And I'll just reiterate on it a little more. If we can train our eyes to take 3 seconds, every room you walk into, when I say room, I'm talking about you're pulling up to the gas pump and you're pumping your gas, and there's someone on the other side of that pump. Ask people, hey, how you doing? And typically the answer is what? Fine, I'm okay, I'm good. Well, if you ask this follow up question, you'll be amazed at how many people open up to you. And the follow up question is this: can I ask you, how are you really doing? And you will be amazed at how many complete strangers will open up to you. And so that's waiting in line at the grocery store. That's at work in the during a break, lunch break, or while you're in school, walking through the hallways. Train your eyes to take 3 seconds. Look around for someone that's lonely, that's hurting, that needs encouragement, and ask them that question: "How are you doing?" But don't be satisfied with that answer, right? Because deep down, we all have a story to share. We're all going through some hard times sometimes. So ask that follow up question: "How are you really doing?" And watch how God will use you.
Mm, so powerful, Tom. Thank you so much. How are you doing? How are you really doing? I love that. I love that. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening to this, thank you for tuning in. Um, think about your friends, think about your loved ones, send them a check in message, ask how they are. How are they really? You know, especially when you sense that something's not quite right. But let's just open our eyes to the people in our world, okay? And if you're the one who's struggling, reach out, like Tom said. Tom, thank you so much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's put the tools in your hand that you need. Feel free to reach out, info@naliniTranquim.com. We will also make sure we include all of Tom's links in the episode notes, and reach out even on social media. You know, Instagram. I know Tom's on TikTok, Facebook. Just drop him a DM. Okay, he's a normal human being just like you and I'm sure he will respond. Till next time, take care of yourself and your loved ones.